Hello, hello, and welcome. Hello, 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 hello. Do you hear me? Hello. Hi. How are you? Um, I have exciting news that is for me, but not for you. But it could, I mean, okay, it's fine. Everything's fine. Sorry for the lateness, my tardiness. I just got approved for an apartment. So, um, oh, I got a lot to think about. Anyway, before we do that, before we head straight, before I get swamped with all of that shit, we're going to read. We're going to read today. Isn't that lovely? Isn't that lovely? Somebody congratulate me. Okay. I am reading. We're reading. Yes. Yes. Sorry, I'm very excited. A lot of things just happened just now. Like a lot of things just happened, and I'm so disoriented. Yeah. I'm crazy. I'm crazy, and I actually had a good night's like rest last night. It was really weird because I was feeling it in the dream. Like I thought it in the dream. Oh, am I having an actual good sleep tonight? That's like literally in my dream. I was like, it was crazy. It was crazy, but then I did wake up well rested, and that never happens. Whoa. Whoa. Anyway, how's your day? How's your day going? Hope it's going good for you. If not, that's okay. That's okay. It sucks, but it's okay. Okay, we are on chapter 49, called Hate You. What happened last chapter? Kumong licked his lips. What's wrong, princess? It took a moment for Moji to register the words. His head snapped up. What did you call me? I forgot about that! They're in the restaurant. Oh my god. I'm having too many endorphins flood me all at once. I'm gonna crash really hard later. Oh wow. Okay. And my mouth is full of saliva. My mouth is full. Tea. Tea and then start, shall we? Oh, I need to put a coaster under this. I always forget. I always forget. Shut up. Okay. All right. Remnants of Filth. We haven't been here for we took a week break. Let's get back into it. Chapter 49, page 179. Let's go. Moji's abrupt change in expression frightened Gumong. He hesitated before answering. Princess? Moji felt like all the blood in his body had rushed to his head. The single word was like a boulder crashing into the ocean, making his head ring so thunderously that it took him a moment to speak again. Why did I what? Moji's fingertips felt cold. He desperately grabbed the teacup on the table, which barely concealed his trembling as he asked hoarsely, Why did you call me that? Oh, it's what Li Wei taught me. He says princess means someone very respected and high up, someone who should be properly cared for. Gumong smiled. I think you're just like that. A long silence ensued. It's like, listen, it's sad because he doesn't mean what he thinks he means, but it's also really sweet because it means something else. Oh my god. Wow. What's wrong? Gumong asked. It was like Moji had fallen off the edge of a cliff to the bottom of a gorge. His trembling continued, but his excitement instantly cooled. He gritted his teeth and turned away. Nothing. Seconds went by, and still Gumong looked perplexed. Moji closed his eyes and finally managed to scrape away the anguish hidden in his heart. He rapidly changed the subject. Drink your cabbage soup. Don't worry about me. Gumong peered at the boiled napa cabbage in his bowl. But the soup is gone. Napa cabbage. Moji made no reply. Gumong's gaze flitted around the table and landed on a bowl of peppercorn meatball soup in front of Moji. You want to try mine? Moji asked. Gumong nodded. Moji was in a mood, but it was a complex one. He didn't really want to get angry. He pushed the soup bowl toward Gumong. There are whole peppercorns in here. They have a very strong flavor. Be careful. He loves him. He loves him. Gumong took the bowl and tore his last flatbread into pieces, dipping them in the bowl to eat. He blew on the soup and used a spoon to carefully avoid the curled-up peppercorn husks, but inevitably one slipped through his defenses and trespassed into his mouth. He didn't react first, and even crunched the shell between his teeth. The consequences were just as expected. An instant later, Gumong spat out the peppercorn shell, tearing up, his tongue red and stinging from the numbing spice. He shoved the bowl of soup away. So cute. You're back to a one-day streak? No, you can get it back. Just get it back. No, I won't tell anyone. I won't tell. Wow. That's hot. That's hot. Sorry. So many things happening in my brain right now. So many things. Oh, wow. Okay. I love him. It's poisonous. Moji was taken aback at first. Wasn't Gumong able to handle spicy food? But he quickly realized that Gumong had developed his spice tolerance later in life. Before, he wouldn't touch any food with the slightest hint of red. When the Lao Kingdom broke his mind, he'd probably reset all of his acquired tolerances as well. The realization made Moji's anxiety worse. Even now, he still harbored a sliver of hope that all of Gumong's bewilderment was feigned. But in all the days they'd spent together, Gumong's and every move told him otherwise. The former beast of the altar had died. All Moji could have or hate or lash out at was the handful of embers before him. God damn your purple prose! Moji watched him in exasperation. There's no poison. Gumong stuck out his tongue, chagrin written all over his face. I've been poisoned. There was no point in trying to explain, so Moji poured him a cup of cold jasmine tea. If you drink this slowly, it'll cure the poison. It'll cure the poison. Moji apprehensively accepted the cup of tea and sipped it with a frown. Better now? Gumong nodded and looked hesitantly at the table laden with food. I'm not eating anymore. Just don't eat the dishes that are poisoned. Gumong pouted. This place is no good. Let's not come back. Moji looked at Gumong's lips, bright red from the spice. An indescribable impulse surged in his heart. Gumong, he said abruptly. This was where I treated someone to a meal for the first time. Do you know who that person was? Gumong thought it over. Me? Moji's eyes brightened for a minute, but then he saw the confusion in Gumong's eyes and heard the question in his tone. Did I guess right? Moji said no more. He silently closed his eyes and let out a soft sigh, leaving the question unanswered. We get a scene break. Straight into the beginning of the chapter. All right, 181. In the evening, after they finished their meal, these two old friends turned enemies strolled along the shore of Okay, Yanzi. I know it's I'm pretty sure it's Yanji Lake. Red lanterns hung over the bridge, casting a rosy glow as gentle as a dream over the water's surface. Boats slid past the anchor for the night. When the strike of a wooden oar, the dream shattered into. With the strike of a wooden oar, the dream shattered into glimmering fragments of light. Gumong walked by Moji's side. Moji had bought him a steamed. Oh, it's a flashback! I'm stupid. Moji had bought him a steamed bun filled with chicken, pork, and bamboo shoots, a local specialty, and Gumong was tearing through it with gusto. Moji stopped walking and stared at the surface of the water. After a long while, as though still clutching at the last kernel of hope. No, it's not a flashback. Okay. Wait, is it? I can't tell. I don't think it is. Alright. Moji stopped walking and stared at the surface of the water. After a long while, as though still clutching at the last kernel of hope, but also as though mumbling without a care, he said, "If Lu Jiangxing hadn't died, would you still have gone to such lengths?" "What lengths?" Moji watched the reflection in the water. "It's nothing. It's fine, even if you've forgotten it all. As long as you're alive, there's still a chance things will change." Why, The madam at Lome Pavilion told me I could say, to agree with other people. If I agree, people will be happy. Why bother trying to make me happy? Moji asked after a pause. Gumong took another bite of his bun. Because you're a good person. Moji stared at him in shock, then coldly retorted, "You really don't know how to read people." Gumong swallowed, his eyes pure and guileless as he gazed at Moji, who stood amid the glowing lanterns and splashing oars. Shut up. A pause. Could you not do that, especially with something like this? Forget it. After a beat, Moji turned back to face Gumong, thoroughly vexed. How am I good? Ugh. Whoa, hang on. My back is okay? My hips are okay? My hips and my back are okay? Okay. Hold on. As Gumong spoke, he stepped closer to Moji, sniffing like a puppy at his face, neck, and ears. If Moji's female admirers could have seen this, they would no doubt have been stupefied. The cold and aloof Jihujun actually letting someone get this close and act in a manner so strange and intimate. Didn't he usually throw people onto their backs and break their ribs? But they only knew part of the story. Moji certainly didn't like being touched by strangers, but Gumong was clearly an exception. Part of it was because he was now so naive. Everything he did was born of a childlike instinct, with no other motivations. If he was curious about something, he would put it in his mouth for a taste. If he wanted to understand something, he would move closer for a sniff. But the other reason that Moji and Gumong had been inseparable since long, long ago. He had long grown used to him. There's this kind of smell on you, Gumong finally said. Different from other people. What smell? Moji looked at him. Gumong shook his head. I don't know. You mind? Gumong shook his head. I don't know, but... He paused, as if trying and failing to dredge an appropriate description from his sorry brain. Very sweet. You smell like a spoonful of honey. Damn, Gumong. Way to rizz him up! It was clear that Moji didn't want to continue this bizarre conversation. What else? He asked. Gumong held out the remaining half of the bun. Only you would buy me this. He looked at Moji, puzzled. Why do you care so much? Moji blinked, slightly startled. Was that written so vividly on his face? In the light of the lanterns reflected the water. What? Do you... Okay, she's... Hmm. I'm just gonna continue, and you're just gonna have to deal with it, I guess. Hello, is my stream okay on Twitch side? Are you okay? Okay. Moji blinked, slightly startled. Was that written so vividly on his face? In the light of the lanterns reflected on the water, Gumong looked at him with those large, elegant eyes, ever so calm and peaceful. Moji shook his head and didn't answer the question. He only said, "You're the second person on Earth to say I'm good." Who's the first? Moji gazed at him. Also you. Wait, no. I got it wrong. Sorry. Moji was speaking. You're the only person on Earth to say I'm good. Who's the first? Moji gazed at him. Also you. Gumong was stunned. There's two of me? A pause. That's not what I meant. Forget it. Telling you was a waste of time anyway. Gumong's shock dissipated. Then you should go ask some other people. Maybe many of them will also tell you you're good. There was no one else he could ask. It had been a long time since he had allowed himself to speak his mind to someone else, or allowed anyone to share their innermost thoughts with him. Every person who had tried to get close to him had been pushed away by his icy detachment and bone-chilling coldness. Moji thought of himself in his youth, of Gumong washing dishes in that little restaurant, of the late emperor of Mengzi. He thought of those bygone battles. He thought of those bygone battle fires at Dongting Lake, and of kneeling in front of Gumong like a beggar, pleading with him to turn back. The old scar on his chest started aching dully. Those who had betrayed him, and those he had betrayed, all seemed to be washed away in the limpid waters of Yanji Lake. He closed his eyes. For some reason, his heart throbbed bitterly. When he spoke again, even he was frightened by the hoarseness of his voice. Gumong, did you know? There are actually many secrets between us that I've never told anyone else. He fell silent. He hadn't done this kind of thing in almost 10 years, the words lodged in his throat, unable to pass the barrier of his teeth. Slowly the impulse faded. He was like a vengeful ghost, punished by having his tongue torn. He could only swallow his bitterness back into his gut. He had already grown used to it. At this point, Gumong suddenly spoke. Don't say it. I'm not listening. Moji looked up. Why? Gumong brushed away strands of stray hair that the night wind had blown into his eyes. He leaned against one of the bridge's wooden pillars and looked up at Moji. Because you don't really want to tell me. If I really knew you, then I might remember it myself in the future, so there's no point. He covered his ears. I'm not listening. Moji looked at Gumong, standing there with his hands clasped over his ears. After a beat of silence, he broke into laughter. It was his first true laugh in a long time, one that was genuine rather than scornful, taunting, perfunctory, or insincere. Moji laughed long and hard, his back pressed into a wooden pillar. As Gumong watched him, he slowly pulled his hands away from his ears, then raised them, this time to touch Moji's face. His fingers were cold. For this, Moji ought to have sharply rebuked him and pulled away, but against the backdrop of glowing lanterns and softly splashing oars, amid this anguish that had tormented him all day, or perhaps not just today, but ever since Gumong's defection, his lashes fluttered slightly, but he couldn't say anything harsh. Wetness gathered in the corner of his eyes. Oh shit! Oh shit! Princess, Gumong murmured, and then said inexplicably, Can I have your name on the back of the plaque? Because I seem to be a good person? He didn't expect Gumong to shake his head. No, he said. Because I think I really did know you. Moji felt like sharp talons had wrapped around his heart. Even breathing hurt. I'm gonna cry. Gumong said, I don't know what a lord is, but it sounds okay. I want it to be you. Moji stared at him, his feelings impossible to describe. His heart was filled with the melange of emotions. What is... Okay, 2 words in a row that I have no idea what this means. First of all, melange with the... Melange? Melange, but with the first E with the accent. And then piquant. Okay, his heart was filled with the melange of emotions. Is that French? It's probably French. Piquant and volatile. He summoned all his restraint to say, quiet and slow, You're far from worthy. What does worthy mean? Moji tried another track. What I mean is, you can't. Gumong thought it over. Then what do I do to become worthy? Moji couldn't respond. He stared at Gumong and only asked, Can't you tell that I hate you? What's hate? Gumong asked, lost. Look into my eyes. I hate that I can't drink your blood, tear off your skin, or torture you to the brink with my own hands, make you suffer until you beg for death. Moji stared at him coldly as he enunciated each word. That's hate. Gumong stared hard into his eyes. They were very close, their eyes fixed on one another's, their breaths mingling. Moji found it inappropriate and was about to push him away when he heard Gumong say, But you look like you're in pain, like it really hurts. Hating me, it hurts you? Holy shit. Holy shit. That's... Mean Bud, why do you do this to me? Wow, that's the end of the chapter. That's the end of the chapter. Damn, that was so short, but it was such a good chapter. That is a turning point, I think. Probably. Damn. Oh, wow. Okay, chapter 50. It's titled Accompany Me. So, whatever that means. Let's just get into it, I guess. Page 120. What? No, 18. Oh, sorry. Page 187. The speaker of those words did not take them to heart, but the listener did. Moji shut his eyes. He felt as if a phantom knife had pierced his vitals, filling his chest with blood that splattered across the ground. Since Gumong had returned to Changhua, he had only seen people with hateful, furious, and cruel expressions on their faces. He'd never seen anyone look at him the way Moji did. I'm sorry, he blurted. I won't ask you to be my lord anymore. Don't be sad. Moji said nothing. Don't hate me. If you stop hating me, will you stop hurting? Delicate lines rippled over the lake's surface, the shattered motes of reflected light like a skyfall of flickering stars. Holy shit. Holy shit. Too late, Moji rasped, seemingly an age later. Gumong, one day, you will die a justified death by my hand. I've sworn it. Fuck you. He turned around, his handsome features hazy and indistinct beneath the unsteady light of the red lanterns. I was never a good person. It's just that Shishong forgot. At this, Gumong immediately swallowed the rest of his bun and began patting himself down. Confused, Moji asked, "What are you doing?" After Gumong had run his hands all over his clothes, and he raised his head to say, "It's dry." Then he then reached for Moji's hands, wanting him to feel it for himself. Of course, Moji refused and shook off his grasp. He asked with a frown, "What do you think you're doing?" "Huh? My chest isn't all wet, so why did you call me Shishong?" Footnote: Shishong, or wet chest, sounds just like Shishong, senior Marshall brother. This poor guy. Moji blinked, dumbfounded. In any case, Moji meant what he said. He had never been perfectly good, far from it. He had rash ambition and reckless impulses, and had gone through phases of reserve as well as abandon. Gumong had personally witnessed it all, and forgiven it. But this present Gumong had buried their past. Moji was the one standing in this besieged city all along, filled with resentment because he couldn't tear himself free. As they walked home that day, Moji told Gumong, "I've committed many wrongs." But when Gumong asked him what they were, he fell silent. He used to love Gumong, so he had always refrained from doing anything that would disappoint him. Up to the day Gumong had admitted to his face that he'd turned traitor, Moji hadn't actually hated him, and he hadn't truly committed many misdeeds, as he claimed. When it came to Gumong, there was only one thing that he truly considered a mistake. And that was falling in love with him. That was an unforgivable crime that he had still chosen to commit over and over again. He was like an idiot beyond saving, angrily reminding himself that he could never make again the same mistake, while continuing to hang himself again and again on the same tree. That night, Moji lay in bed, staring dry-eyed at the swirling patterns on his curtains, and thinking, why not just kill Gumong in a single strike? Why not make a clean cut and be done with it? What was he pushing himself like this for? It was only later that he realized he hoped Gumong would remember the past. Not just so Gumong could answer for his betrayal, and not just so Moji could hear Gumong repent or see Gumong shed tears. He still wanted Gumong to come and ask him about some of the secrets known only to the two of them. Even if Gumong ranted and raved at him, even if they had to spill one another's blood and fight to the death once more, it would at least be better than the state of things now, where Moji alone had to shoulder the memories of two. Gumong. A sigh so soft it was barely audible drifted from beneath the bed's canopy. In the end, you're the heartless one. And scene break. And scene. Man, this book is so sad. This book is so fucking sad. Okay, we're on page 189. And so time passed just like this. Moji was constantly on guard, but he never found any sign that Gumong was faking his condition, and his hopes gradually faded. As he began to give up, his irritation with Gumong grew. The kiss-up Li Wei observed. Before, whenever Gumong showed up, the Lord's eyes would be locked right on him. But now, whenever Gumong shows up, the Lord turns away first, he concluded. The Lord is frustrated indeed. Li Wei hardly needed to say it. All of Jihe Manor could feel Moji's frustration. It was said that repression made people go crazy. Moji's anger had been repressed for a long time, and the criticisms that heaped on Gumong gradually grew crazier. Wait, sorry. Why must you eat with your hands? Has no one ever taught you to use chopsticks? If you don't know how to wash clothes, then how do you know how to put them on? Li Wei's taught you how to make lotus root porridge 3 times, yet you still can't tell the difference between the salt and the sugar jars. Are you blind, or is your tongue broken? The miscellaneous chores thrown at Gumong grew more and more numerous, while the standards demanded became higher and higher. The more hopeless Moji felt about Gumong recovering his memories, the more impatient he became. By the end, even Moji's personal servants found it outrageous. Even though the Lord's... Wait, who's speaking? Even though the Lord's always walking around like a thundercloud, he wouldn't go off on us for no reason, and he'd never make things harder for us on purpose. But when it comes to Gumong... looks like Gumong really pisses him off. Some days later, Moji's personal servants found themselves completely idle. This was not because of anything they had said or done, but because that twisted Shihajun had already assigned every last one of their duties to Gumong. One had to admit that Gumong was very clever. Although his mind had been damaged, his capabilities remained intact. After a month, he was able to properly and neatly handle all the chores that Li Wei had taught him. On top of that, he was physically strong and a fast worker, and didn't complain when he was assigned the work of 10. He never even whined about being tired. When the servants gathered, they gossiped about him non-stop. Look at the damned life he's living. He has to wake up at midnight to chop the firewood, and light the cooking fires and make breakfast before dawn. Once the Lord wakes up, he has to tidy the room, and no matter how well he cleans, he suffers a round of scolding afterwards. After that, he eats breakfast, only to be yelled at again while he eats. Then, when the Lord goes to court, he has to wash the clothes and hang them up to dry, then scrub the floors in the main hall the reception pavilion, and the dining hall until they shine, then feed the fish and weed the back garden, then prepare dinner. My God, I wonder how he feels. How did he feel? No one would believe it if he said so, but Gumong didn't actually feel a damn thing. His vocabulary was so pitiful that when Moji shouted at him, he could only understand simple phrases like, "Are you a pig?" On top of that, his obliviousness to social mores meant he didn't realize that there was anything to be upset about. Because of his beastly nature, he considered things as an animal would. Even though Moji always looked mean when he talked to him and spoke quickly and impatiently whenever he started ranting, Gumong didn't dislike him. After all, Moji gave him food every day. In Gumong's eyes, Shiha Manor was like a wolf pack's territory. Moji was very strong. Every day he would venture out to earn his official salary. The official salary could be exchanged for food, items, and clothing, so Gumong felt that Moji was a wolf with excellent hunting skills, who was just a bit too fond of howling. However, since he was so capable, Gumong decided not to look down on him for it. Roles and duties were very clear-cut within the wolf pack. If Moji needed to go out and hunt, and he told Gumong to stay within the territory to patrol, clean up, and do the washing, well, that was reasonable. Cooking was a rather complicated task, and he'd needed 10 or so days to learn all the words on the labels of those bottles and jars, but he was still quite pleased with himself. Not only did he know how to write the words sugar and salt, but also rice, flour, and oil. Gumong felt that these were amazing accomplishments, and so it was all thanks to Moji's howling. As for vinegar and soy sauce, those words were too hard. He didn't know them, and he had no plans to learn. The scent of vinegar was so strong he wrinkled his nose as soon as he smelled it. He knew he would never mistake it for anything else in his lifetime. Every day, he and Moji shared the spoils of Moji's hunts. Cute. Oh, cute. Gradually, Gumong came to think of Moji as a companion, and every time Moji cursed and shouted at him, he felt inwardly anxious, though he didn't say anything. He knew that irritable wolves were more likely to fall into traps, and besides, if they got too angry, their fur could fall out. If they lost too much fur, they would easily fall sick, and if they got sick, they would easily die. He didn't want Moji to die, because Moji was the only person in Changhua willing to share his prey with him. There were many times when he wanted to comfort Moji, so he would be less angry, but he went round and round Moji without figuring out a way to calm him. In the end, all he could do was stand off to the side, listening as Moji cussed him out while praying for Moji's longevity. Only like this would he have food to eat. Such were Gumong's thoughts. Fortunately, Moji had no idea, or his rage would have sent him to an early grave. It was nearing the end of the year, and the Bureau of Military Affairs was busy, so Moji returned home late many days in a row. One particular night, he returned from a dinner party so late even Li Wei had already retired. He had had a bit to drink at the party, but he'd always been self-disciplined and drank only out of courtesy, not for pleasure. He currently never indulged to the point of drunkenness. His chest was just rather warm, causing some minor discomfort. As he came to the courtyard that held his own quarters, he spied Gumong squatting by the lotus pond, bathing the big black dog with his sleeves rolled up. When the black dog caught sight of Moji, it struggled free of Gumong's grip and immediately ran off. Gumong got to his feet, water dripping from his arms. "Are you a pig?" Moji snapped with his usual impatience. The black dog had splashed Gumong with water, compelling him to wipe a hand down his face. Moji caught sight of that hand, fingers bright red from the cold, and suddenly thought of the old Gumong, who had lied to everyone and snuck out to earn money washing dishes, just to spoil him. Hello? Are we back? Uh-oh. 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 Are we back? Hello. OBS. Come on, don't be in yellow. Go into the green. Yeah, that's the green. I love the green. Grass. This scuffed? No, it's not scuffed. Refresh. Refresh your page. Refresh. It's not scuffed anymore. Refresh. Nope, it's going back down. So YouTube is not you. OBS is being homophobic. Homophobic. Where is phobic? I'm gonna burn his house down. Arson. Are we okay? I think we're okay. Let me go back a paragraph. Let me go back. I'm not sure where it scuffed up, but let's go back here. As he came to the courtyard that held his own quarters, he spied Gumong squatting by the lotus pond, bathing the big black dog with his sleeves rolled up. When the black dog caught sight of Moji, it struggled free of Gumong's grip and immediately ran off. Gumong got to his feet, water dripping from his arms. "Are you a pig?" Moji snapped with his usual impatience. The black dog had splashed Gumong with water, compelling him to wipe a hand down his face. Moji caught sight of that hand, fingers bright red from the cold, and suddenly thought of the old Gumong, who had lied to everyone and snuck out to earn money washing dishes just to spoil him. Something seemed to have lodged in his throat. Only after a long interval did he manage to say, "Are you a pig? Why can't you fetch firewood and heat up some water to wash him with?" "Fando doesn't like heat." "Who?" Gumong used his sleeve to mop away another trickling stream of water. "Fando." Moji realized he was talking about the black dog that had been inseparable from him since Lome Pavilion, and was rendered momentarily mute. Gumong always put the care and comfort of others above him, often to his own detriment. Now, all he had was this dog brother, so he cared for the dog's feelings the same way he had cared for people. In the chill night air, Moji studied Gumong's face, taking in the way the bright moonlight illuminated his clean features. his pure expression, and his tranquil blue eyes. He wanted to say, "Why are you doing this to yourself?" But when his lips moved, the sneering words that emerged were, "Aren't you a saint?" He went inside to bathe and wash up, then climbed into bed with his robes fastened. But he tossed and turned, incapable of sleep. Lately, he felt like he was becoming increasingly unhinged. Without an answer from Gumong, he was like an unexorcised, vengeful ghost, driving himself madder and madder. Sometimes he even thought it would be better if Gumong died, or if he himself did. It would be better than this incessant guessing, this tumultuous torment. After midnight, it started to snow. Moji stared into the dark through dry eyes. Suddenly, an impulse seized him. He flung the canopy aside and rushed outdoors without bothering to put on his shoes, his feet landing on the soft snow, gleaming white as willow fuzz. "Gumong!" he yelled into the cave-like entrance with the pile of taihu stones, thinking to himself that perhaps it was high time he got checked out by a doctor. "Gumong, you better come out." The entrance curtain rustled, and Gumong emerged, confused and half awake. He rubbed at his eyes. "What's wrong?" Moji ground his teeth for a long time before answering stiffly. "Nothing." After a pause, he spat out, "But I don't want to be the only one awake." Moji? Moji! Any normal person would surely blanch with fright and shriek, horrified, "You must be crazy!" But Gumong was clearly not a normal person. He only stood there, his eyes sleepy and unfocused, and calmly said, "Oh." That exhalation was as calm as a water in an old well. Such an utterance wouldn't have elicited the slightest ripple of emotion from a normal person, but Moji clearly wasn't normal either. The water fell into roiling oil and sparks instantly filled the sky. Rage surged within Moji. He was barefoot in the icy night, clad in a thin robe, but he felt not a hint of chill. Instead, he felt violently hot. He stared at Gumong, fiery sparks filling his eyes. Then he grabbed the man's arm so tightly, red marks instantly appeared on Gumong's wrist. He yanked him close and glared into his face. "I'm in a bad mood. Haven't you lost your wits now? Haven't you lost all your dignity, all your understanding of shame, all your memories? Don't you submit meekly to everything?" He watched those bewildered, drowsy eyes in the snowy night. In those blue eyes, he saw his own face, driven mad by suppressing himself for days on end. He realized he was being quite ridiculous. He swallowed thickly in an attempt to contain the defiant fury within him, but his breaths were still scaldingly, scorchingly hot. "Very well." He tightened his grip on Gumong's arm and stared him down. "You'll keep me company tonight." "Oh, that's what it means. Oh, that's what it means. Oh, that's what it means. Oh, that's what it means." Oh, hey guys, I gotta skim this next chapter. I gotta skim this next chapter. Holy shit. What? What is happening? What is happening? Huh? 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 Na. I don't know. Huh? 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 Okay, no, we can read this next chapter. I don't know about the one after that, though. God damn. Okay. It's called Don't Move. Chapter 51 is called Don't Move. I fucking hate meat bun. Oh my god, but I will run to the bathroom real quick and have our little ad break before we start again. I'll get more tea as well. So yeah, before that next chapter happens, be right back, Barb. Alright, we are back. We are back with more tea and our bladder empty, so let's see what is happening right now. Oh my god, what's happening right now? Hang on, let me close these things. Yeah. Alright. Are we alright? I'm not gonna, no, we're all left. I'm not gonna drink my tea right now because it's too hot. You're too sticky. Okay. Page 197. And we're still going good with OBS? Okay, let's go. Don't move. Chapter 51. Sparks flew from the charcoal brazier as the pale blue bed canopy hung open. Moji sat on the edge of the bed, staring at Gumong with dark eyes. Get on your knees. Gumong had learned how to kneel at Lome Pavilion long ago, but he didn't like doing it. It wasn't because of pride, but because he didn't know what those people telling him to kneel wanted from him. He got on his knees, and he was told every time, but for some reason, the spite on their faces never faded. Rather, they only flushed redder with rage. He didn't know what part of this position he'd gotten wrong. Gumong hesitated as he looked at Moji. Then he knelt, falling to his knees by the bed of Jiho Manor's master, down by that man's feet. In the past, he hadn't cared if others were satisfied with him, but he depended on the person before him for sustenance, so the meat on tomorrow's table was at stake. He hoped that he could lift Moji's spirits. But Moji didn't look satisfied. Did anyone ever tell you what it means to kneel? He glanced downward and asked in a chilling tone. Gumong shook his head. Getting on your knees denotes submission, humility, and deference. Moji stared at him. But there's none of that in your face. You've only bent your knees. Your back is still straight. Oh shit. Gumong said nothing. It seemed as though he had no idea what to say. He remained kneeling, blinking in helpless bewilderment. The frank honesty of his gaze verged on rudeness. This was indeed why he had infuriated everyone who had instructed him to kneel. Though he got down on his knees, there was no shame on his face. Over the past 2 years, so many people had sought to see him humbled and ruined, wanted to see him live a life worse than death. But no one succeeded. Gumong was like a blank sheet of paper, calmly accepting all their venom and disdain. His ignorance had become his greatest shield. Moji's rage flared once more. He grabbed Gumong by the jaw and leaned over to stare into his eyes. His aura was like a sword unsheathing, with a metallic clang, ready to run Gumong through. Gumong, do you really think I wouldn't lay a hand on you? After staring at him for a long while, Gumong's response was to ask, unexpectedly, Did you drink? Stunned silent, Moji froze. He seemed to have been reminded of something. He let go of Gumong at once, as if burned. He had used too much strength. His fingers had branded 2 bright red marks on Gumong's pale cheek. Moji turned away, voice stormy. That's none of your business. Gumong touched his own cheek. There were lots of people who drank at Lome Pavilion. They drank a lot, and then they become very bad. That's called being drunk, Moji said coldly. Then are you drunk? Moji turned to shoot him a glare. If I were drunk, could I still talk to you like this? Then, have you been drunk before? Outside, the snow fell whisper soft, and the northern wind wailed. For a moment, neither spoke, and the only sound within the room came from the crackling brazier. I've never been drunk. Only once did I have a little too much. Just that once. You saw me, you teased me, and you forgave me. From then on, I kept myself strictly in check and never allowed myself such lack of restraint again. How did you forget? How could you forget? How dare you forget? These words roiled in his heart, hot as steam, but the sentence that left his mouth was coldly unfeeling. My affairs are no concern of yours. Gumang fell silent. Oh, that is way too much honey. Shit. The two of them looked wordlessly at each other. Moji stared at Gumang as if he could see through those limpid blue eyes directly into Gumang's heart. Moji thought, if only he could see straight in. If only he could cruelly tear this man apart, pierce him through. If only he could get a good look at those secrets in his bones, the currents in his blood, the filth in his soul. Name drop! Name drop! Name drop! Name drop! If he could see how dirty the man kneeling before him was, perhaps he'd let go of this persistent attachment. Gumang wiggled his bare feet and asked, When you told me to keep you company, did you want us to stare at each other? Moji glared. Don't be ridiculous. Then what do you want me to do? Moji began to think in earnest malice, deliberately tearing his gaze away from Gumang. The words, You'll keep me company tonight, were clearly suggestive and inappropriate, but neither man thought of it that way. Moji was truly determined to refuse Gumang a peaceful sleep if he himself couldn't sleep. Wow. And Gumang had accepted the camaraderie of sharing sleep, or the lack thereof, with the man who provided him his meals. Damn. Here, you read. I'll sleep. Moji browsed his bookshelf, then tossed a scroll titled Legends of Divine Catastrophe at Gumang. I can't read. Hasn't Li Wei been teaching you for the past month? Moji grumpily waved off his protestations and lay down. Read the words you know. Oh, Gumang accepted Legends of Divine Catastrophe and began to read aloud, starting with the title, Legs of Vine Cat. Moji nearly smacked him in the face with a pillow. When Gumang finished reading, Moji had understood not a single sentence of this book he'd memorized at the age of 5. Whatever Gumang had read aloud was a work of literature entirely novel to Moji. In the second half of the night, the still sleepless Moji rolled out of bed, glaring balefully at Gumang for a long interval, then suddenly yanked him upright. Where are we going? Asked Gumang. The study. Gumang had been kneeling for a long time, so his legs were numb with pins and needles when he was abruptly lifted to his feet. After staggering a few steps, he crumpled to the ground, and as he fell, he instinctively reached out to grab something. In his disoriented state, the closest thing to him was Moji, so he wrapped his arms around Moji's waist. Ooh. The coldest days of winter were upon them, but the coal fire in the room was roaring, and Moji, hot-blooded and hale, was dressed very lightly. When Gumang embraced him, the only thing separating him from Moji's slender waist was a thin layer of underclothes. Moji's abs rose and fell with his breath beneath Gumang's palms, and those ever-tidy lapels had been pulled askew, exposing a glimpse of his well-muscled chest. Moji turned to level him with a dark and inscrutable stare. If any ordinary woman were in Gumang's place, or even certain men, they would definitely be swooning over Jihujin's masculine scent and imposing physique. But Gumang's past affections had faded, and it seemed that, as a wolf, he had no interest in matters of love. Thus he saw nothing noteworthy about the male body in front of him. If he were pressed for his thoughts, he'd probably say that this body felt hard and hot, and seemed to carry a whiff of danger. Let go, Moji gritted out between clenched teeth. With his arm still wrapped around Moji's waist, Gumang looked up at him with those blue eyes and said, baldly, "I can't stand up." He pointed at his legs. "They're not working." Moji's expression darkened further and further. "They're just numb. They'll still work fine. I said let go of me." At the sight of Moji's riled expression, Gumang thought to himself that this man really was very easily set off. He clearly had no idea how to care for his companions. Even Fandol was better than him in this respect. He thusly silently released Moji and staggered to his feet. Almost immediately, Moji pushed open the door and, without looking back, walked through the colonnade into the study. The manor's study was secluded and sparsely furnished. It was therefore unsurprising that the room did not contain a coal brazier. Moji had a fire-type core to begin with, which, coupled with his hot-blooded vigor, meant that the cold didn't bother him in the least. Don't say it. Dressed in the single thin robe, he strode over to the desk. He glanced back at Gumang, who was hovering by the door, and said, "Get the hell in here. Hop to it." Gumang paused for a second, then crouched low to the ground. "What are you doing?" Stop it. Starting from the doorstep. Oh, that's so much honey. Starting from the doorstep, Gumang began to hop over. Once, twice. Moji was about to implode with fury. "I didn't mean literally." Gumang looked up and sighed. "Okay, then you tell me how to do it." If not for the look on his face indicating that he was humbly and agreeably seeking instruction, Moji could have mistaken him for the old, incorrigible Gumang trying to tease him. Moji resisted the urge to blow up with all he had and said, "Come here." It seemed like Gumang was worried he'd infuriate his volatile companion again. I don't need to hop over there anymore, right?" "Walk." Gumang stood up and walked to Moji. He watched Moji calmly, awaiting his next words. Moji looked through the tiles on the shelf for a book suitable for introductory reading and came away empty-handed. Frowning, he grabbed a brush and paper, along with an inkstone and inkstick, and laid them out on the rosewood desk. "How many words have you learned from Li Wei?" Gumang counted on his fingers. After using all his fingers, he wiggled his bare feet and continued counting on his toes. Then he had determined that the words he knew outnumbered all his fingers and toes put together. He crowed proudly. "Lots." Moji pulled out a chair. "Sit." Gumang sat and cast Moji an inquisitive glance. Moji crossed his arms and leaned against the rosewood table, looking Gumang up and down. With a wave of his hand, a wisp of flame issued from his palm and lit all the lamps in the room. "I'll be the judge of that." "What does judge mean?" "It means I'll say something and you'll write it out." Moji, you know he's incredibly... Oh, he's taking all of his information in for the first time, so if you say that, then it's gonna be law for him. Oh, Moji, this is so mean. Blech. Bad habits learned at Lome Pavilion were likely still stuck in Gumang's head. He clumsily took up a brush, dipped it in ink, then asked, "If I can write them, will there be a reward?" "You'll get punished if you can't." Gumang's eager expression turned anxious. He tentatively asked, "No more food for me?" Moji glanced at him without replying. Under the golden candlelight, Gumang's thin face was so close to his eyes so blue they seemed to have been rinsed by the sea, were fixed on Moji. Since the day Gumang came to Zihe Manor, Moji had very rarely seen the numbness and apathy he'd had in his eyes when they were first reunited at Lome Pavilion. Humanity was gradually returning to Gumang's gaze, but no matter how many times Moji tried, he never unearthed even the tiniest hint that Gumang still remembered his past. Moji said, "We'll talk about it." "I need to have food," Gumang protested, "or else I'm gonna be hungry." Moji glared at him. What makes you think you can bargain with me? Right. Sloppy handwriting splotched across the paper. Moji would say a word and Gumong would write it out. If he wrote it correctly, Moji would remain silent, but if he got it wrong, Moji would call him an idiot. Moji made Gumong write the numbers 1 through 5, followed by Gumong's own name, and then Moji's name. Still utterly unsatisfied with his emotions in turmoil, Moji demanded Gumong write. In life I'll return to you. In death I will yearn for you, which is a footnote. From the poem Ode to My Wife by the Han Dynasty statesman Su Wu. And this longing will only end when we see each other again. From the poem Long Yearning by Song Dynasty poet Yan Jidao. Hopeless romantic. Hopeless. Hopeless. Even when it was clear that Gumong couldn't possibly know how to write any of these words, Moji refused to let him go. Instead, he pinned him to the chair and forbade him from moving. I do not know how. Gumong was woeful. The light in the room was soft and dim, the snow outside a hazy white. Moji looked at the crooked words strewn messily over the page. In each line of yearning verse, there were mistakes in every direction. He walked behind Gumong and took the brush. I'll teach you. A sleet struck the windowsill. Gumong sat in his chair while Moji's tall figure leaned over him. Each of Moji's brushstrokes were peerlessly beautiful, exquisitely elegant. He wrote, and Gumong copied him clumsily. Halfway through, he couldn't hold back a sneeze. Moji's hand stilled, and he looked down. Cold? Gumong didn't like to inconvenience other people, especially other men. This stubborn streak showed even now. He shook his head, only to sneeze again. Go put on a coat. If you freeze to death, it'll be a bother having to take care of you. It's only a little cold. Gumong rubbed his nose. Not too bad. Moji simply could not insist after that. If he kept on demanding, it would seem like he cared about him. So he continued teaching Gumong to write. But as the lesson wore on, Gumong couldn't bear the cold anymore. Without conscious thought, he began instinctively itching toward the only heat source in the room. Moji. Little by little, he edged closer. Moji, immersed in his instructions, was unaware of Gumong's movements at first, but by the time he noticed, Gumong was already tucked close to him, like a wolf seeking warmth from its pack, as though, in the next breath, he'd nestle into Moji's embrace. Moji's eyes darkened. Without a word, he set the brush aside and seized Gumong by the jaw, forcing him to look up. Moji narrowed his eyes in stormy displeasure. When I told you to get the hell out and put some clothes on, you refused. Now what? This is such a beautiful chapter. Oh my god. It's like I'm there in the room with, I'm like a fly on the wall, for real. That is so fucking beautiful. That's the end of the chapter. Oh my god. Oh my god. It's so... Well, it's not vibrant because it's a dark room, but it is vibrant in my mind. Like, oh man. Oh, I could just picture it perfectly. Holy shit. Okay, one more. Let's go. Maybe. Possibly. I think so. I don't know. This one is called Unintentional Seduction, so, Whoa! Oh shit! Oh, sorry. There's an illustration in this chapter. Who is that? Oh my god, hello, I would like to meet you. Anyway, next chapter. Page 200, we're on the 200s now, baby. 207. Unintentional Seduction, chapter 52. Gumong watched him, his bare feet fidgeting anxiously beneath the table. Fando and I sit together to keep warm. Moji shot him an impassive glance. So, you're not wearing a lot, so you're cold. I'm not wearing a lot, so I'm also cold. We're both cold, but when we're close together, it'll be warm. Silence. Moji was a cutsleeve, and Gumang had been his lover. Cutsleeve has a footnote, but I'm assuming we all know what this means, but in any case, well, it just means gay. It just means gay. His rational mind was like a towering city wall containing any improper impulses, but it couldn't lock away his physical instincts. He knew very well how strongly he'd react to Gumang if they sat in such close proximity, in such thin clothes. There would be consequences beyond mere warmth. He felt indignant. He felt indignant, as if he'd been deliberately seduced. Even though said seduction was a figment of his own imagination, his expression darkened noticeably. He stared at Gumang for a while, then abruptly let go of his jaw. He grabbed a piece of paper to wipe his fingers with disgust, and said, frostily, "Don't think too highly of yourself." So we can't? Who the hell do you think you are? In the face of these harsh words, Gumang's face showed no hint of sadness. He only turned to look at Moji, his every emotion clearly written across his face. Moji could read his confusion, his bewilderment, his trepidation, but saw nothing there that brought him joy. If he could just hurt Gumang even the tiniest bit, Moji thought, he wouldn't feel so maniacal. I thought I was a companion. Your companion, replied Gumang. Moji didn't speak. After a moment he reached out and hooked a finger around the slave collar on Gumang's neck. His fingertips slowly traced its way downward until it flicked the metal tag on its pitch-black iron ring. Eyes downcast, Moji said, "You thought I would be companions with someone wearing this? You are a traitor. I am your mortal enemy," he murmured. This will not change, Gumang. This will not change. Gumang, we can never go back." Well, okay, now we have a massive not massive, because it's winter anyway, but we have a time skip, I think. The fuck, man? As the year came to an end, Moji grew yet more convinced that Gumang wasn't faking his condition after all. Gumang had indeed forfeited all of his memories and reason after he lost those two souls. This sent him into a long period of brooding discontent. You mean depression? You mean grief? You brooding discontent. You're grieving, man. You're grieving, okay? You're stupid. Fucking idiot. One day, after returning from court, Moji received a message that Medicine Master Jiang had finally returned from his travels. Jiang Fuli was Chonghua's finest medicine grandmaster and was well equipped to take on even the most difficult cases. Although Moji considered Gumang to be nearly hopeless, Jiang Fuli was still worth a try. Thus Moji brought Gumang, along with the last thread of hope, to Jiang Manor. Jiang Fuli was eccentric and arrogant in the extreme. Among Chonghua's three poisons of greed, wrath, and ignorance, greed was Murong Lian, and ignorance was Murong Chu Yi. As for wrath, he was a man who despised anyone who displeased him, and blew up whenever he didn't get his way. He was utterly irrational and did whatever he desired in the moment. The individual was none other than Medicine Master Jiang Fuli. The venerable medicine master had talent enough to dispense with all social etiquette. He cared nothing for tact and always did things his own way. Who is speaking? Who is speaking? I don't know who is speaking. I heard that when he returned to the manor and learned that Madame Jiang had met with Li Qingtan, he was so angry he didn't speak to her all day. He asked her if she was sick in the head and said he hoped she'd get well soon. Why'd he say that? I'm not sure either. He probably thought Madame was too reckless. I heard he called on Yue Manor to have it out with Murong Chu Yi. He said Murong Chu Yi should shouldn't have meddled and gotten his wife involved. Ha! Ignorance versus wrath. Did Murong Chuyi not start a fight with him? Murong Chuyi wasn't even there. Jiang Fuli smashed 10 of Yue Manor's tea sets before he left in a rage. He swore that if Murong Chuyi dared involve his wife again, he'd personally come to tie him up, toss him into a cauldron, and refine him into medicine. The young Yue Gongzi was trying to hold him back, and I heard Jiang Fuli made him cry. Oh no, my boy! Whoa, he's so scary. Indeed, he was. Moji had crossed paths with Jiang Fuli before, and the man had left a terrible impression on him. If there were literally anyone else he could talk to, he could ask for help, he would never have thought of visiting Jiang Manor. But when he turned and saw Gumong lying in the sun next to Fan Do with his eyes half closed, he felt he had no other choice. Within Jiang Manor's great hall, 2 opulent dangling lanterns patterned with interwoven branches burned brightly, and thousands of whale oil lamps transformed night into midday. All the decor was of exquisite craftsmanship, 100-fold more costly than the average cultivator could afford. It was a sight of utter extravagance. When they arrived, dinner had just concluded. The housekeeper brought out generous servings of tea and refreshments, and dispatched someone to the rear building to inform the boss of the Jiang clan, Jiang Fuli. Contrary to Moji's expectations, they were waiting for a long time. Moji sat and rested his eyes while Gumong scarfed down snacks from the plate. The celadon? The celadon glazed ware platter held peach blossom pastries. Oh no, I'm flashing back to fish. Oh, I'm still so sad about fish. Fuck. Peach blossom pastries, flour cakes, and fruits preserved in honey. He shoved each and every one of them into his mouth. After cleaning his own plate and licking his lips, he still seemed unsatiated. With a furtive glance, he reached a hand toward Moji's plate. Moji didn't blink, so Gumong confidently continued feasting. Are you that hungry? Moji asked out of the blue. The question caught Gumong unawares. Do you want it? He mumbled indistinctly. There's still some left. I thought you weren't eating. I'm not, Moji replied lightly. Okay then, I'll take care of it for you. The last 2 words were muffled as Gumong shoved another peach blossom pastry into his mouth. He tried to speak around his bulging cheeks, but all that came out were sounds of munching. Nom 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 nom. Moji said nothing, but his brow furrowed ever so slightly. He was sick of witnessing Gumong's slovenly table manners. He turned to ask the housekeeper, What's taking so long? Is your lord busy with some urgent matter? The proprietor is treating Chang Feng Jun's daughter. What? The proprietor is treating Chang Feng Jun's daughter right now, said the housekeeper. He should be finished soon. Moji frowned. I've been hearing a lot about Chang Feng. I've been hearing a lot about Chang Feng Jun recently. What illness does his daughter have? Madness of the heart, the housekeeper answered. Chang Feng Jun's daughter has an unmanageably strong spiritual core, and she's very young, so she can't control herself. She's already hurt so many little lords and ladies at the Cultivation Academy. Well, this is a man. Okay, my bad. He sighed and continued in a sympathetic tone. It still works. She's only 7. When her illness isn't flaring up, she's quiet and well-behaved, very polite, but no one wants to be her friend. She's really quite the poor little thing. This sounds like BPD. Can her illness be cured? Not quickly, said the housekeeper. And if she continues to hurt people, the Academy intends to destroy her spiritual core and expel her. Oh, that sucks. Hi, Foxy. Hope you're having a good day at work. Or will have a good day at work. Wait, actually, what time is it? I don't even know. It's morning for you, isn't it? Oh well. Wait, no, you. Never mind. Whatever. Expel her. At this, Moji paused. Wouldn't that mean she'd never be able to cultivate again? Not only that, it would be very risky to destroy her core like to destroy a core like hers. If anything were to go wrong, it could break her mind as well. Hmm. I wonder if this has anything if this is any way related at all to Gumong's situation. I wonder. Moji did not know what to say to that. Chung Feng Jun and his wife and their daughter and his wife had their daughter late in life. They never imagined it would turn out like this. Her father and mother have no tears left to shed, the housekeeper sighed. The little girl has been trying to keep herself in check, to slowly bring her spiritual core under control. She's been making steady progress, but... Another sigh. Jihujun knows that the academy is full of noble heirs and offspring. No one wants to risk it with a heart-mad child. Chung Feng Jun pleaded and begged and pulled every string he could to let her stay this long, but the other noble lords are deeply opposed to it. If she injures anyone else, no matter whom, I'm afraid she won't be allowed to remain. She's only 7. She's only 7. I don't know why 7 is such like a turning point. At least for me, it was like, damn, 7. It was such a turning point in my life. It just was. It was just like, oh, I'm actually sentient. Like at 6, you're like, ah ha ha, la 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 la, and then at 7, it's like, oh, wait, I'm in control of me. It's very interesting. 7 is an age. Where was I? Moji suddenly remembered the time Chung Feng Jun had sent him gifts. So this was the reason. He was about to speak when a man's imposing voice rang out from the inner hall. Lao Zhou, what a big mouth you have. Who let you carelessly divulge Patience's affairs? The housekeeper's mouth immediately snapped shut. Moji turned to see a man who looked to be in his 30s emerge from behind the screen of golden silk. This man wore exquisitely embroidered robes of bluish green, their many overlapping layers crisscrossing at his lapels. His sash was straight and neat. With an audible flick of his long sleeve, the man sat at the place of honor with no hesitation. He looked up with light brown almond eyes, features as sharp as his manner was haughty. Medicine Master Zhang, Moji said. Zhang Fuli placed his hands on the arms of his chair as his gaze swept over his guests. His thin lips pursed. Then he said, without any pleasantries, You're healthy. You don't need treatment. What about him? Asked Moji. Zhang Fuli glanced at Gumong. He's ruined. There's no treatment. Moji had already lost most of his hope that Gumong might still remain his memories, but hearing Zhang Fuli's declaration with his own ears still made his heart sink. He closed his eyes for a few beats before he asked, undeterred, Is there no hope for recovery at all? There is. Zhang Fuli arched a brow and scoffed. Search heaven and hell for his 2 scattered souls, and all his problems will be solved. The question is, does Jihujun know where to look? If anyone else had spoken to him like this, Moji would have already flipped his lid. But such was Zhang Fuli's power. Everyone in Changhua disliked him, calling him an evil profiteer and a heartless salesman who made his fortune from exploiting the dying. But no one in Changhua would dare raise a hand to him. Not even the emperor himself. Is this foreshadowing? Is this going to be foreshadowing? Oh boy. All this because Zhang Fuli was a one-of-a-kind miracle healer. Moji looked at Gumong, who was staring blankly at the dessert plate, before he turned back to Zhang Fuli and asked, Would the medicine master perchance know of any other methods by which he might recover some memories? Morning trauma. What? Recovers Summer's memories. If it's just a few memories you're after, nothing else is needed, Zhang Fuli said curtly. The soul responsible for memory has been removed, but that doesn't mean he's forgotten everything in his past. As time goes on, he'll naturally recover some of it. Moji's heart skipped a beat. How much would he be able to recover? Depends on his luck, Zhang Fuli said. But without restoring the 2 souls he lost, most of it won't return. Seeing the sudden shadow in Moji's eyes, Zhang Fuli sneered. To be honest, when it comes to memory, it's better to either recover it all or forget everything entirely. It's more torturous to have nothing but fragmented recollections. If I were him, I'd rather stay ignorant like this. It'd hurt a lot less. The candle flame guttered. Zhang Fuli leaned back against the soft cushions and lazily continued from this more comfortable position. Anyway, human minds are unpredictable. If he were to regain some memory, who knows what it would be? Moji's heart pounded at Zhang Fuli's words. It was true. If Gumong recovered some piece of his memory by the whims of fate, who could guess what it might reveal? In his old life, Gumong had kept too many secrets and endured too much devastation. On the lighter side was his relationship with Moji and the humiliation he'd suffered at Murong Lian's hands. On the heavier side were the military secrets of the Wangbao army and the pressure he'd faced from the emperor. If Gumong suddenly remembered some of these fragmented scraps, how would he feel? The mere thought of it chilled Moji to the bone. It was clear that Zhang Fuli knew what was on Moji's mind. With a dark smile, he asked, "Does that scare you?" Moji made no reply. If he remembered how His Imperial Majesty treated him without understanding in full context, he'd become even more deranged, uncontrollably so. Zhang Fuli continued. To resolve a matter at that point, Shihujun, would be no easy task. Moji saw how unruffled Zhang Fuli's features were beneath the lamplight. You have medicine, said Moji. It was no question. Aren't you clever? Zhang Fuli scoffed. I may not have methods to restore his memories, but I can write plenty of prescriptions that would help him avoid dark recollections. The handsome man wore a shrewd expression on his as he fiddled, with the jade rings on his hand, like a hunter waiting for his prey to jump into the net. Are you interested? Of course Moji would not be daunted by expense. He lounged in his chair, one elbow propped on the backrest, long legs crossed in their black military boots, not even looking up as he said, Name your price. Sure. The thought of money improved Zhang Fuli's mood. You're certainly more straightforward than His Imperial Majesty. His Imperial Majesty also knows that he might regain some memories. Why would I keep it from him? Zhang Fuli replied. But he didn't care for the consequences and wanted Gumong to remember it as much as possible. Moji was silent for a spell. Just write the prescriptions, he said at last. To be clear, this prescription is for calming the spirit, Zhang Fuli said. Although it helps hold back bad memories, it cannot control the choices that Gumong might make in response. If he someday remembers something that causes great anguish, and you open your eyes to find him rushing at your neck with a knife, I certainly won't offer a refund. He drummed fingers pale as white jade on the table and gestured at the Medicine Master Manor's signboard with a haughty tilt of his chin. Everyone will be done according to Zhang Manor's rules. Did I say everyone or everything? Everything will be done according to Zhang Manor's rules. Moji refused to grace Zhang Fuli's rotten signboard with a single glance. The first time he had seen it as a youth left a deep impression in his heart, forever changing his naive notion of healers as benevolent saviors. Other medicine halls, no matter how useless, still hung up precepts like medicine in the service of the people or fair treatment knows no age. Medicine Master Zhang's board, on the other hand, contained a brash exhortation. Mess with Zhang, die by Zhang. That's fucking crazy. This guy's fucking crazy. Without a shred of restraint, Zhang Fuli asked, "Do you understand?" Moji's face remained impassive. "Prescribe the medicine." "All right. One course of treatment will be 70,000 gold cowries." Psh. Not even the Zhang Manor housekeeper thought this a reasonable price, but he quickly masked his snort with a cough. Excuse me, I have a cold." Zhang Huli shot him a glance, baring his teeth in an eerie smile. "Okay, I'll give you medicine too." Okay, but why is he kind of hot? I know he's awful, but why is he kind of... why is he kind of sexy? I'm fine. Moji produced several golden cowrie notes from his changkum pouch. This made Gumong perk up and crane his neck for a closer look. After living in Lome Pavilion for so long, the words he understood best were cowrie shells. His companion was about to spend money. He was about to spend cowries, not just cowries, but golden cowries, and not just golden cowries, but 70,000 in one go. How many clients would he have to take what would he have had to take to earn that much money? As Moji was about to hand the money over to that mean, almond-eyed man, Gumong objected. His hand shot out to grab Moji's wrist, and he solemnly shook his head. "Don't give it to him." Moji looked at him. "It's my money." Gumong didn't budge. "Let go." After thinking it over, Gumong couldn't find a good reason to stop him. He could only sigh as he loosened his grip. "Money's all gone. Will we have to go hungry?" Gumong. Oh, Gumong. Oh, because you have a type? I don't know what you're talking about. I am not... Actually, I've never gone for the mad scientist person. It's just that he... It's just that he threatened him like that. That was so... Damn. Okay, maybe I do have a type. Maybe I do. Moji ignored him and put on the table 7 notes worth 10,000 gold cowries apiece. With a push of his fingertips, he sent them toward Zhang Huli. Zhang Huli's expression, when he looked at the money, might have become sweeter than when he looked at his own wife. He accepted the notes and ordered the housekeeper to bring paper and a brush. He then slid a narrow red sandalwood box on the other side of the table toward himself. He produced a crystal eyepiece and placed it over his left eye, then took up a weasel fur brush in his palm in his pale fingers and began to write. Gumong was slowly recovering his senses of boldness, likely because his life had improved significantly after he left Lome Pavilion. His attitude was no longer one of excessive apathy and indifference. Curiosity had returned to his scarred and wounded body. At the sight of Zhang Huli's crystal monocle, he asked, "What's that?" Zhang Huli replied blandly, "An eyepiece. Why do you need to wear it?" "I'm night blind." "What's that?" "It means I can't see clearly at night." "Then why do you only wear one?" "Only my left eye is afflicted." Gumong hummed in understanding, but upon further consideration he found a gap in Zhang Huli's logic. Night blindness means you can't see when it's dark, but your room is so bright and shiny. It's a magical injury, not a normal illness. My left eye will become blind as soon as night falls, no matter how many lamps I light. No matter how many lamps I light, they're only any use. What? Their only use. Oh my god, why is this sentence confusing me so much? No matter how many lamps I light, their only use is for my right eye. Jiang Huli peered at him coldly from behind the eyepiece. Does General Gu have any further questions? I don't like to be disturbed when writing prescriptions. No more, Gumeng replied sincerely. There were 70 or so different herbs in the prescription. Jiang Huli ordered someone to bring out a golden abacus. As his pale fingers flew over the beads to check prices, he simultaneously examined the prescription for dangerous intrications between herbs. Dangerous interaction between herbs. My bad. This is your prescription. Here you go, Jiang Huli said. Come here tomorrow to pick up the medicine. Moji took the prescription. He had nothing left to say to Jiang Huli. Seeing that they were more or less finished, he prepared to leave. But at this moment, Jiang Huli called him back. Hold on. Does Medicine Master have more instructions? There's one more. Jiang Huli looked at the servant standing at the side of the room. The servants standing at the side of the room. All of you, withdraw. Yes. After the servants' departure, only 3 people remained in the hall. Jiang Huli finished his tea before he looked up. Jihujun, I wish to ask you about a trifling matter. When the spirit sword Li Qingchan sought out my wife, were you at the scene? Moji nodded. Jiang Huli's face stiffened for an instant. Did you hear what my wife said to him? Madame Jiang spoke very softly. I heard nothing. The answer seemed to displease Jiang Huli. His pale, thin lips moved slightly, as if to silently curse someone out. He asked again, Does anything survive the Hong Shao sword? A hilt remains. Jiang Huli's gaze abruptly sharpened. In whose possession? Murong Chuyi's. Why do you ask? Jiang Huli did not immediately reply. At the mention of Murong Chuyi, he swore, then fell quiet in brooding thought. Forget it. There's not much there to investigate. He stood and straightened his robes. Jutting his chin in Gumeng's direction, he said, Right, Jihujin, I must warn you about something. If you don't want him to remember those dark memories, there's one more thing beyond taking the medicine as prescribed that's very important. Medicine Master, please advise. Jiang Huli wagged a finger at him. Try to keep him away from objects related to his past. A person's mind is very hard to predict. It's very possible that something he wouldn't have otherwise recalled could be brought back by something as insignificant as a whiff of a scent. You must remember this. And that, my friends, is the end of the chapter. You mean someone familiar like himself? Like himself? Oh no! Oh no! Shit. The next chapter is called I'll Feed You. So, yay! Wee! I remember to put on my Mix It Up. Alright, that is where we will end for today. Oh, Foxy, I have some exciting news to tell you. Oh, I'll tell you in DMs. Okay. Yippee! I will be off. And, kind of related to the exciting news, I will probably not be streaming next week. Most likely, I might even have to cancel Sundays. Not cancel, but I might not be able to do Sunday stream as well. So, that's something. It's exciting. I mean, it's kind of sad, but it's exciting. You think, yay, yippee! Yeah. Oh my god. Oh my god, big things happening. Okay. Well, I mean, I've already said it on stream, but yeah, I got approved for an apartment. So yeah, I've got a lot of work to do, and I'll see you when I get my fucking Wi-Fi set up, you know? Everything set up. I guess so. I guess next time you'll see me, we'll probably be in a different it'll probably sound a little different. Probably be in a different location. So yeah, exciting things. Exciting things. All right, but thank you guys for watching. I will actually, I think we have enough viewers to rate someone. That's weird. Why are people watching me? What are you doing here? Go away. That is not what I meant to press. What are you doing here? Okay. I accidentally pressed stream together. Raid channel. Let's see if anybody. I think I know someone's. I think people are streaming today. All right, yeah, Slay. Get it? Yeah, okay, I will. I will. I will. Okay, but thanks for following. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later. Eventually, we are going to raid pup cats. Be very nice. Be very nice to them because they're super cool and chill. Actually, yeah. Well, yeah. Let's do this. I'm gonna start raid. Say, raid message is hi gay. No, don't do. Wait. Well, you. Actually, I don't know if it'll get flagged or not. Say slay with 15 Ys, okay? Okay. I'll see you later. Bye bye.